Success is obviously not an accident.
Veranda IAS, where your dream becomes reality.
Thank you, Speaker Sir. I rise to talk about the finance bill that is being presented recently, sir. Sir, I want to start with addressing the inequality in the system, sir. Inequality that the budget and the finance bill has presented to this country. Now, the provincial numbers for the tax collection, the personal income tax is about 12.35 lakh crores, sir, and the corporate income tax is about 9.68 lakh crores, sir. You understand the inequality here, that the companies who are able to do business and pay taxes are paying less tax than the common man here. So I want to understand the very ideological basis of where Viksit Bharat is heading, and where is the socially progressive nature that our Honorable Prime Minister has been espousing in the speeches in his government. So I would want to know the stand through you, sir. Now, about 10.7 lakh companies file tax returns, sir. And the tax collection data shows that about 0.3% of the companies actually pay 67% of the tax, sir. 0.3% out of the 10 lakh companies. And about 56% pay no tax. I'm here pointing out that it's not about no tax versus tax, but actually the burden being shared across the pyramid. And the reason why I'm saying that is that because these companies, these small companies, are not being given enough opportunity to grow and actually pay taxes. I'm not trying to tell that they're not paying taxes, but the opportunity loss is actually a lot larger. And these very rich companies are paying tax, and it's creating a very unequal society and an opportunity loss here. Now, the litigation, the faceless assessment that the government has bought in the last 3 years, just give a status update. 5,39,863 cases are pending as of today, sir. And the amount that is being locked up is around 18.16 lakh crores. And our budget is 52 lakh crores, sir. You just see the amount of money that is being locked up in litigation is this. And I also wanted to point out that 27% of all litigation of the central government is only with finance, sir. And you see that we are in a lacuna here. On one side, we want to collect taxes. On the other side, we have 27% of litigation, which is being conducted by the finance department. Now, let's just put it into an opportunity cost, sir. You take 7% of 18.16 lakh crore, it is approximately 1.27 lakh crore. And to maintain this 1.27 lakh crore, the government spends up to 50 crore of litigation cost per year for the finance department. Now, if you do an opportunity loss ratio analysis for us, so for every 1 rupee that the government spends in protecting that investment or the demand for 18.16 lakh crore, it is 1.27 lakh crore that the private investors or customers have to bear year after year, sir. It's not 1 year. So the impact of 1 rupee that the government spending on litigation is 2,500 times onto the economy, sir. So the finance bill doesn't address this particular inequality. Now the vacancy is about 36% or in the tax department, sir, of direct taxes. Now I also want to point out, since sir is here, Jaishankar sir is here, he's also from my place at Trichy. Madam is also from Trichy. I will also be very happy if they start the recruitment from Mussoorie and Trichy constituency, sir. We will offer the biggest job mela and the candidates so that they can fill the 36% and do better collection, sir. Now, I'll also want to point out this direct tax is actually costly to comply, sir. These numbers tell you that it is very costly to comply, and it's very cost efficient to have alternate avenues. The government intention to collect tax is actually being defeated because of this convoluted idea of direct taxes in this finance bill. Let's move on to GST, sir. Everybody's favorite topic. GST is because it impacts our everyday life and items. Now, the government went ahead with a rate cut, assuming that it is going to give a buoyancy to the economy, expecting that the money is going to come back, in rotation and to help, the economy grow. Now, RBI's consumer confidence survey actually said no expenditure buoyancy after the tax cut of GST. You know why, sir? It is not because tax cut was effective. It was effective. But the government assumption that the money is going to come back into spending did not happen because our citizens thought that there is a lot of uncertainty ahead of time. So the buoyancy didn't happen, and the share of wallet, the money that was being rotated, actually decreased from 58% to 54%, sir. So the impact of Madam's choice to reduce the GST is actually not helping us here also. And this GST reduction has actually impacted states' revenues also, because states, take revenue from GST collection. And this unilateral decision to take GST and not to compensate states is actually hurting them economically also, because most of the work of the people is actually being done by the state government, where the money, certain amount of money, say about 34% approximately, comes from the central government for Tamil Nadu, sir. Now, there's also this inverted duty structure issue, where specifically for agriculture, the tractor machineries are at 18% today, sir, whereas the finished goods is at 5%. So the farmer has to actually bear more taxes and not be able to pass that benefit to the customer. So this budget has something called as new schemes, sir. They had allocated up to 1 lakh crore, asking this parliament to pass that bill for new schemes. The parliament has not been told of what schemes. Of course, it might be a contingency fund, but it can be told as a contingency fund. The parliament has approved close to 1 lakh crore for new schemes. So through you, sir, I want to ask madam to give us more clarity on what those funds will be spent for. Now, debt, sir. Now, debt, about 56% of our GDP is debt. Now, I mean, it's okay to have debt as long as the economy is growing, as long as you're able to service debt, as long as the tax collection is increasing. We're all for, sustainable debt. But I also want to point out that certain, areas of the budget, such as the railways, are taking indirect debt in lieu of leases. You see, close to 25% of railways budget has been allocated for lease servicing. So rather than taking debt upfront, they're going to take lease, which is going to provide for future cash flow problems. So I want this house's attention to come that lease is another form of debt, which is actually not shown in books, sir. It is not good for the growth. Now, I also want to point out, every state has been fixed a limit for borrowing. It's a good thing, because you don't want, undue borrowing, which can hurt finances. Now, this house has passed the fiscal responsibility bill, sir, FRBM bill, which is being passed about 5 years ago, and still the union government is failing to follow, but is asking states to follow a fiscal discipline. So I think the union government has no locus standi if they don't follow the FRBM bill. And through you, sir, I want them to follow the FRBM bill so that more money is passed to the states and we can still do a better job. Now, FTAs, the government has been going on about FTAs, free trade agreements. I also want the House to know what is the status of the free trade agreements. We must know if the free trade agreements, helps us in terms of giving us the revenues, investments, job opportunities, assets. Now, India's trade volume has increased, but you also should note, so is the trade deficit, the amount that we have to, pay others for the FTA. So I would point out 4 FTAs, sir. The ASEAN Treaty, which was in 2010, had a trade deficit of 35 billion as on today, sir. The UAE, which was signed in 2022, has a trade deficit of $26.7 billion. The Japan in 2011 has a trade deficit of 10.8. South Korea in 2010 is a trade deficit of 14.72 billion. Now, trade deficit is an ongoing account, sir. You can keep, rolling on the account to the next year, and we must ensure that our balance is better than to pay us. So what this has helped us, what this FTA has helped us, is to increase the trade, but it's also increase our debt levels vis-a-vis the dollar amount. And that's why you see the pressure on the rupee year after year. Now, what this tells us is the contributing states, the southern states, I would take TN, for example, Tamil Nadu, for example, as not only has to work for the union government, but to Vietnam and China also because of this trade deficit. So we have to pay for the dollar and work here in India. Now, out of all this, the free trade agreement has led us to a point where the rupee is actually working for the dollar, not the other way around. So we're actually working for the dollar to increase, and our rupee is actually being continuously devalued. Now, another favorite topic of the treasury benches, the PLI. You have, let me take a specific production link incentive schemes on electronics. Now, government wanted to do electronics. It has its own reasons, sir, because they don't want to be, they want to be geopolitically independent of our adversaries. It's a very good scheme, but the intent was good there. But what had happened is this: 10 companies, amount of 1.6 lakh crores, which is 50% of the capital expenditure, on producing these very focused areas called semiconductors and other electronic components, which make us independent for defense and our ability to export. Now, the core material for all these electronics is polysilicon ingot. The polysilicon material that goes into all the electronic chips. 100% of the polysilicon ingots is actually imported from our adversary country today, sir. So 1.6 lakh crore has actually made us, into a huge labor shop. We have not, increased our capability to be independent of our adversary. We have not, developed our capability to export, and we have not developed our capability to attract more dollars.
Very good
So
suggestion.
this incentive that is given has actually made us into a labor shop. We are not even adding value to the total semiconductor ecosystem. So we are actually shortchanged. I don't know for what intention they have done it, but what has led us is to a place where in a very difficult spot, and our adversary holds are fully polysilicon ingot. That being said, polysilicon ingot can be done in this country, sir. Our country has got enough capabilities. So just not only either top level, you can work from the bottom level also. Our states, especially TN and the southern states, will be happy to help you also. I would want the House to note that this is a very critical juncture where the government should be made aware of. Also, AI models, sir. I mean, everybody is impacted by AI today. And India is the largest provider of data for these AI models. We have developed an ecosystem where the government has come up with schemes to attract AI, data set, where we give the basics, the electricity, the water, the land, and the basic labor. And what we get back for us, they assume it's labor, but it's not labor. Our data, which these models use, is actually going free of cost, and we are taking our own grid. Our grid is not even 110%. It's actually much lesser. So the electricity that has to go for other productive uses and other productive labor is actually moved to a data center, and we pay those data center models with our electricity and the subscription cost, which most of the members are paying. So this imbalance need to be corrected very soon, and our share of our work through data must also be I think it must be cashed out, sir. Now R&D also. So India's R&D is about 0.6%, sir. And today without R&D, we can't innovate, we can't move forward. So this House must also note that R&D budget of Israel, a smaller country, is up to, is above 2%. So this government should take attention to increase the R&D and actually follow certain models which Tamil Nadu has excelled at. We'll be happy to, share it with the central government in terms of manufacturing, where it can give jobs and also innovate. Now, state share of revenue, sir. Now, this, Honorable Niti Aayog has given us up to 41% of devolution of central funds. The cess amount has increased from 7% 10 years ago to 10%. And the cess amount goes only to the central government, sir. I have told this before also. What this cess amount does is to actually reduce the devolution to 41%, and effectively, Tamil Nadu as a state is only getting 34% of the central government, because 34% of the centrally sponsored schemes rather than the full amount of 41%. Sir, very important. In fact, one of the suggestions that we want to make is for the GST revolution that happens, I request the central government through you, sir, to make an automatic deposit into state's account, rather than just taking 1 month, tallying the accounts, waiting for the salaries, moving into the account. He's actually given us 45 days. It's not only for me, sir. All the treasury rule states also are facing this problem. So through the state's eyes, it is much easier if the cash flow is coming up front. I want to request, this mechanism through you, sir. Now, certain members have apprehensions about free schemes. They call it free schemes, but I will tell you why it's not free schemes. It's a schemes that empower women, specifically in Tamil Nadu's case. I want to present Tamil Nadu's case not to showcase that we're doing really well, which we are, but I want to showcase so that other states can actually learn from us and actually improve the national average. Now, women-centric schemes. There's the bus transport scheme for women, sir, which actually helps women in the domestic area to move around here without any cost. There's also the scheme for students, girl students and boy students to get into college. There's 1,000 rupee scheme. There's also a laptop scheme that's given. There's always the non-Mudalvan scheme, which actually enables students to go into competitive exams in the country and serve the public. And there's also the scheme where all government school students who have passed NEET, in spite of the inequality, are being given full fees from the government. I'm saying all this to note that the parliament can also learn from this, but I would also want to share the outcome. What is the outcome? What does the scheme do? Rather than people think on the top line is actually reducing and a lot of schemes go. The outcomes are this, sir, that the rural regional banks all over the country, Tamil Nadu's regional rural banks have the lowest NPA, sir, because this money goes into serving the agriculture loan and student loans, and they're able to keep there's a drastic reduction in high interest rate, usury cases. If you see the last 5 years, there's decrease in the usury cases, and hence domestic participation in governance is also increased. Now, there's also a higher than 40% female participation, labor participation rates are highest in the country, even in labor. So you can assume that, they have got the schemes from the government and they can stay idle at home. No, they are actually contributing to the economy because their problems are being sorted out from the government. They're contributing to the government's growth. Now, GDP growth, which is announced by the central government, Tamil Nadu is what at 11%. We're still doing faster, 11.3% in fact. And then Mandrega, again a favorite topic of the people here. I would just want to point only one data point, sir. In Tamil Nadu, Mandrega, for every 100 rupees, the RBI through the NSSO has said that the social return on investment is for every 100 rupees that is being spent by the central government, it gives back 148 rupees in terms of labor savings, in terms of asset creation, and in terms of social equality also. So I want the House to note that Mandrega is actually creating wealth, and you can follow Tamil Nadu's model in terms of creating this SROI, sir. Sir, I'm finishing, sir. Only 2 more minutes, sir. Now, the point is, the GDP data has 3 classifications, sir, of data measurement. There's a primary, which is agri and mining. The secondary, which is construction and manufacturing, and there's tertiary, which is trade and finance. Now, the value addition, for 1 rupee of value addition that the farmer does, he gets about 18%, sir. And the manufacturing gets about 25%. The trade, tertiary gets 56%, sir. And the government spends maximum on the 18%. You understand that the government's ROI on spending on the primary infrastructure is only at 18%, but the maximum value is taken by somebody else. So I want the government's attention to happen that the balance on where you're allocating the budget needs to be readdressed so that farmer gets more money and your return on investment is also good enough. Now, I also want to conclude, sir, is that in Tamil culture, sir will also join me, in Tamil culture, sir, Tamil culture has never been one from the outside, sir. In fact, those who ever co-opted with Tamil Nadu has actually grown with Tamil Nadu in terms of historical places. So I'll also want to tell the union government that you co-opt with us, you work with us, we will contribute more than you can imagine for the government's growth, sir. And I also want to finish with this, for the nation's growth, sir. Tamil Nadu போராடும், Tamil Nadu வெல்லும். நன்றி, வணக்கம்.
நன்றி. Very good. Excellent.